Ohio State, full preview here. Here's what you need to know. Over-under win total for the Buckeyes, 10.5. They got the best odds to win the Big Ten. They've also, at FanDuel, got the best odds to go undefeated, even better than Liberty. And that market has shifted a little bit in the past couple of weeks. They got the number 2 odds to win the whole thing, behind only Georgia. I think I know with Ohio State that this is the most talented roster in the country. You could make an argument for a couple of other teams, but I think this is the most talented roster in the country. And the key, I think I know, is in the guys they got to come back. Because while a lot of folks have been focused on the transfer portal additions, they got key players to come back. It reeks of what Michigan had happen the year before. That's not a comparison I know they want to hear there, but in terms of broad stroke, yeah, it is a comparison that I'll make. I also think I know this could be the best defense in the country. And if it's not, it'll be really, really close in any key metric this year. They brought key players back, and then they added the best defensive player in the country, potentially in Caleb Downs from Alabama. And the third thing I think I know is they got Will Howard out of the transfer portal from Kansas State. Will Howard needs to manage. He does not need to carry. That's the luxury of being the quarterback at Ohio State. You have got talent everywhere, the likes of which you may never see again. And you definitely won't have talent edges against your opponent ever again, like you will playing at Ohio State. I don't care if you go on to play 10 years in the league. You'll never have a week-by-week edge in talent like you do at Ohio State. That means you don't have to carry. It's not like Shedeur Sanders at Colorado where everyone looks to him and says, bail us out, Shedeur. You got to go win the game for us. No one's going to tell Will Howard you got to go win the game for us. They're going to tell him you need to work within the system. You got 2 potential 1,000-yard backs here. You've got a true freshman who's an alien out wide at wide receiver, and then you got ones who are already here who are really good. That defense may not give up more than 11 or 12 points a game. Don't lose games. Don't make bad decisions in big games. Don't turn the ball over. That's what Will Howard has to do. If he does that, they can win a national championship. The big questions at Ohio State, how improved is that offensive line? It's the thing every Buckeye fan's checking on when they read practice reports right now. Because you know what they should be able to do? I'm going to use a dirty word here again. They should be able to do the same thing Michigan did last year. Ohio State may have the best defense in the country. Ohio State has got sledgehammer running backs that don't sacrifice athleticism for physicality. They've got good receiver play. They should be able to bludgeon people if they want to, though. But you got to have the offensive line to do it. So should be is the key phrase there. Will they be able to? Does this team have a bully mentality? That's another question I have. That's more a DNA thing. You know, I keep going back to what they should be able to do. Had Ryan Day on the show last week, and I asked him, when you got out of last season and you self-scouted and evaluated your program, were there areas where you said, we've got to change? Which every coach does every year, but I was specifically wondering, if you know you've got the personnel to do whatever you want to do, if you know you got the strength and conditioning and nutrition at your disposal to mold your team into any kind of team you want it to be, do you want to be a fighter jet or do you want to be a wrecking ball? Or maybe just both? There needs to be a little more wrecking ball mentality to that team this year, because there's no excuse for Ohio State to ever be the second most physical team on the field. There's no excuse in the fourth quarter for a team to ever be confident they can just drive on Ohio State and bleed the clock. There should be confidence that Ohio State can do that to someone else. And number 3, when we start to learn more about this team, when we see them a few games in, they're going to be winning because their schedule's favorable early on. But by the time they go to Oregon, are there some specific defensive matchups that some of these teams find they can exploit? There's not going to be a glaring weakness. It's Ohio State. They won't have glaring weaknesses. But like the number 2 corner position, do you find that tight ends can have favorable matchups against outside linebackers? That sort of thing. It's going to matter way more down the road than it would matter against Akron, for example. The coaching staff here is really good. Our internal grades have this as a top 5 staff overall. That is not just Ryan Day. That's down the flow chart from Ryan Day. They've got good continuity. It's top 5 overall staff, and that OC-DC combo is elite. Chip Kelly, we've got him graded as a top 15 offensive coordinator. Now, he's been a head coach for a while, but just in terms of play calling, Chip Kelly's a top 15 guy, and Jim Knowles is way up there as well. That's an elite OC-DC combo, and I'm really looking forward to Chip Kelly this year and what he does with what he has. The schedule overview, it's a very easy non-conference. So unlike Michigan playing Texas in week 2, we don't have that on this schedule for them. They got Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, and then they dive into conference play. So at Oregon, at Penn State, and Michigan is why this is not an easy schedule. At first glance, you look at it and you say, oh, these are layups. Some of them are. Some of them aren't. 2 of their 3 biggest games are on the road. At Oregon, at Penn State, Michigan. 2 of those 3 are on the road, and they also get Iowa week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they play Nebraska after a bye week. And it's not that I'm telling you watch out, but I'm telling you watch out for those defenses. Because if they don't have things rolling offensively, Nebraska can put you in a bad spot. They may not be able to score on you, but Nebraska's defense and Iowa's defense can put you in a bad spot. So those will be good tests for that offense, if for nothing else. Best case, worst case, most likely record scenario here. Surefire, there's a 12-0 in the cards for Ohio State. If everything goes well, if we simulated the season 100 times, there's a 12-0 there. I think the worst they could do this year is 9-3, and I think the most likely record outcome is 11-1. I leaned on 12-0. However, you're not going to have a most likely 12-0 when you got those 2 games on the road. JP Poll's got them at number 2 to start the season. The model loves Ohio State. I got them going 11-1 in the regular season. What we don't do is we don't put every one of your games up on this board behind us and predict which game you're going to lose. I don't think there's any skill in that whatsoever. I've always thought that's kind of a dumb exercise. I thought it. You guys can do it if you want to. However, I do think 11-1 is where I've got them, and then I think they're in the playoff, and I think they probably win the Big Ten and off to the races and could very well win the national championship.